If you ever find an old cassette tape in a dead person's house, do not press play. Not even once. Because some voices don't stay in the past. Some voices wait for you to listen, and then they learn your name. My name is Sarah. I am 26 years old. And 3 months ago, I found my mother's voice trapped inside a plastic box the size of my palm. I think saying it keeps me safe. For now, please, just listen to the whole thing before you decide I'm crazy. By the end, I think you'll under. Part 1. The empty house. My mother died in March. Cancer. Slow, then fast. The way the doctors, all her last words to me were soft, almost a whisper. She said, "Sarah, don't listen to anything that's so." She said strange things all week about shadows in the corner, about a man standing by the window W. I didn't understand what she meant. I still don't, not fully. But I understand enough now to be Afra. After the funeral, it fell on me to clean out her house. I'm an only child. My father left when everything smelled like her perfume, like old paper, like dust settling on furniture that hadn't been closed to donate. Furniture to sell. Photographs to keep. It was slow, heavy work, the kind that makes your chest hurt even when your hands are just folding S. On the 5th day, I went up into the attic. I hadn't been up there since I was a kid. Maybe tenure. The attic was smaller than I remembered, low-ceilinged, thick with dust that floated in the one-beam boxes were stacked everywhere. Some so old the cardboard had gone soft and brown at the corners. There was a smell up there too, something under the dust, something faintly sweet and a little bitter. I started opening the boxes one by one. Old baby clothes, folded so small they looked like they bellow, was old, dark wood, with a little brass clasp gone green with age. It wasn't locked. Inside, no writing anywhere on it. Just a plain black cassette, the kind you'd find in a bargain bin at a TH, almost new. Like someone had placed it there recently, even though the box around it looked like it. I don't know why, but I picked it up and held it to my chest for a moment. The way you'd hold something told me my mother had touched this last, that her fingers had been the last fingers on it. I know that now. I think somewhere underneath all my grief, some small animal part of me already knew that too. And part 2. The first time I pressed play, I didn't have a cassette player. Nobody does anymore. Saw the man at the counter tested it for me, and it worked, the wheels turning with a soft mechanical whom my hands were shaking a little, which felt strange for something so small. It was just a tape. Probably an old mixtape, or maybe my mother reading me a bedtime story from when I was small. She, us. I pressed play. At first, there was only static, the hiss of old tape running through old machinery. Then, slowly, a voice came through. My mother's voice. Soft. Warm. Exactly as I remembered it, down to the small catch she always had in her throat when she was about. "Sarah," the voice said, "my sweet girl, if you're listening to this, then I'm already gone, aren't I? Sorry. I want more time. I always wanted more time with you." I started crying immediately. It felt like a gift. Like she had left me one more conversation, hidden away for me to find when I needed it most. The VO. It was beautiful. It was exactly what a grieving daughter would want to hear. It felt like being wrapped in a blanket that had just come out of the dryer, warm all the way through. I sat there in the dark for a long time afterward, holding the boombox like it was a living thing. Each time, it felt like a hug from beyond the grave. I fell asleep on the floor of my living room. Why? Part 3. Something is different the next evening. I wanted to hear her voice again. I made tea, then her voice. But something was wrong. "Sarah," the voice said. "My sweet girl, did you sleep well last night? You always used to toss and turn when you were anxious about something. I could always tell, even WH." I froze, my tea cooling in my hands. I had tossed and turned the night before. Actually, no, wait. It had talked about my birth, about my father, about hoping I found someone to love me. This was a D. Maybe I had just forgotten a section. Maybe the tape was longer than I thought, and I hadn't listened. "I know you drove to 3 stores looking for something to play me on. You always were stubborn like." I did remember that dress. I hadn't thought about it in 20 years, hadn't thought about it since, and I definitely, absolutely had not told anyone that I had visited 3 thrift stores to find AB. I hadn't even told my best friend that specific detail. I had only said I'd found an old player, so there was no way anyone could have known that unless they were watching me, right now in real time. My hands went cold. The tape clicked off again, exactly 10 minutes in. Same as before, the click sounding almost polite. I didn't sleep that night. I sat awake in bed with all the lights on, staring at the boombox sitting silently on my dresser. Part 4. I try to explain it away in the morning. Sunlight helps. It always does. Fear that feels I call my mother's old friend, Denise, a woman who had known her since college, back when he used that my mother had found some way to reach me from beyond, to keep talking to me, to keep being my M. Most of what came up was nothing. Obituaries, church bake sale announcements, a decades-old article. I stared at that clipping for a long time. I told myself it meant nothing. Coincidences happen. Old towns have old tragedies, dozens of them, buried in every issue of Everyday, but I wrote down the name anyway. Eleanor Voss, on a scrap of paper I folded into my pocket. And I told myself I needed to understand it, to know what it was before I could decide whether to be AF. Part 4.5. The house on Larkspur Street before that, though curiosity got the better of his name, was Walter, and he told me he'd lived on that street his whole life, 71 years, and not after her husband passed. Just her and the girl. I asked about the girl. Margaret, Walter's FA. The girl was gone before the funeral. Family came and took her, people said. Relatives from out of. Part 5. The voice learns my name. That night's recording started the same way. Static, then her V. That's all right. I never told anyone about you and me. Not really. Some things are just between a MOT, no possible way, unless it was somehow inside my life in a manner I couldn't understand or explain. I just want to keep talking to you. Isn't that what you wanted? Didn't you want one more conversation? I had. God help me, I had. I had prayed exactly that, more than once in the darkest weeks after I know you didn't visit me as much as you wanted people to think those last 2 months. I know you. Doesn't that feel good to hear? Doesn't that feel like exactly what you needed? That was too much. All of them. Things I had never told a living soul. Things I was ashamed of. Things I had buried so. Part 6. It comes back 3 days later. I open my apartment door to leave for work, and the guard should have thrown it in a river. I should have driven 2 hours out of town and left it in a dump. I didn't unpack it right away. I let it sit in my closet for almost 2 weeks, and during those 2 another night, I woke at exactly 3:17 in the morning, a time that would come to matter very much la. Part 7. Priya doesn't believe me. Until she does. I told Priya everything. One night, over one, Priya shrugged, uncomfortable, wrapping both hands around her wine glass like it could warm something, my secrets, my fears. And each time, the voice sounded a little more confident. A little more like I never repeat what it says. Never answer it directly, because answering is a kind of feeding too, May. Part 8. Trying to end it, I bought a hammer. That sounds almost funny now, writing it down. I did not stop until my arm was tired and sweat had soaked through the back of my shirt. And my kick, I woke up at 3:17 in the morning to the sound of static coming from my kitchen. Part 9. The voice the kitchen was empty. No books. No tape. Just my table, my chairs, the faint orange glow of the S. It was coming from the radio on my microwave. The little digital clock radio that came built into TH Part 10. Priya's phone, I didn't tell Priya about the microwave right away. I think some part of me, she said she kept waking at 3:17 in the morning to the sound of her own baby monitor crackling with it started to believe, cautiously, carefully, the way you test weight on a bridge you're not sure will.